Hello and welcome back. This is Sherry with Heart and Soulful back in the studio today, continuing work on my vintage book journals. So if you're just joining me for the very first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy this video, and if you do, please give me a thumbs up and click on subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. This has been a long ongoing series of making handmade journals out of vintage books. So if you're just joining me for the very first time, this is kind of how they end up. These two are finished. I don't have them in my Etsy shop. I'm not sure I want to part with this one. But I thought if I make a bunch of them, then if I want to keep one, I can do that and then put the rest in my Etsy shop. So they aren't up for grabs yet, but I have shown these in videos. I'll put those aside. Then I was having different comments, and when I made the first couple of them, I was not showing in great detail start to finish. So I have been doing that on the 5 Little Peppers. This one is finished on the insides. I have videos from start to finish of this journal. So I will put a link to the playlist down below so you can watch from the beginning. And since then, I wanted to give you an update on where this one is. And then I've also started more. So they're all in kind of different places. But this one, in my last video, I showed you what I was working on for the spine cover, and I'm finally happy with it. I was tempted to leave it really simple and plain, but I really wanted to add the vines to it, which if you watched the last video, the vines, I had kind of continue from the pattern of the vines on the front cover. So when I glue it down, it will kind of look like this. And then I went ahead and I bordered these little medallions. In the last video, I didn't have this section attached, and I bordered it, and then I added this little turkey work so it has this nice little fringy border. So now I just need to glue it on. I haven't yet, and I'm not going to in this video because I'm still kind of tempted to put some little flowers along these vines, and I want to decide about that first. So it may stay this way. It may get a few more flowers, and then I'll glue it on. So I'm going to set that one aside. And then I'm working on this one. This is the one we're going to work on today. I wanted to catch you up where I am and show you where I'm headed. But then I also started a couple more. I was gone for a week. Now I'm back. The video that I put up yesterday, had finished before I left, and I was kind of hoping I would have time to edit and put it up while I was gone, and then I didn't. So I'm back already. So this one is another book that I just love the cover. I have a bunch of books, and I've done a video on kind of touring my workroom where I keep those, that I had already gutted the books. And so I have all these covers in different conditions. Some had spines, some don't. And so I'm kind of just going through my collection of books that I had already taken apart, and I'm trying to finally make journals out of them. So that's what I'm working on. I won't go through this one until later on, but you can see that I've already put it together. I wanted to get it to this point before I left so that I could end this, so that if I had a lot of time for stitching, I could work on this one. Sometimes I get stuck, or I'm just kind of want to sit on one for a while, and it's nice to have another one that I can work on in the meantime. So this one I didn't show on camera also, but the back base of it, I don't know if you could even see any of that, is one of my grungy, I think it's one of my fresco finish. I'll put a link down below. That's in my Etsy shop. It's one of my digital kits. And there's fresco finishes, and they kind of make them look like old wallpaper-ish kind of things. They're just really kind of grungy backgrounds. So I had printed it on fabric, and I'm kind of just going through my basket of that kind of stuff too. And then I added a couple of pieces of really pale pink lace over the top, and then this other lace down the center. And I'm leaving it kind of ratty and longer. I may or may not shorten that. I kind of, you know me, I like things to have a little kind of tattered look. So that's as far as I got, and obviously I haven't done anything embroidery on it yet, but I will be working on that one too. And then when I get to a point, I will finish it up and show you on a flip through. The other one that I'm working on, I'm running out of space here. Another one that I'm working on is this one. I started it before I left and just got to this point. This one I may go ahead and film. I want to do some experiments first because I want to do a different kind of binding on this, and it will be one that I probably haven't done exactly ever before on camera. But I liked how it still had this kind of, the book tape was still attached. And it's on both sides, and it was bound in a really unique way. You can see the holes where they actually went right through this first layer. I think this actually probably separates. And then this was glued over the top. So there's these holes already, and I have that intact on both sides. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of utilize this little flap in some way. And so I kind of have an idea. I need to do maybe some practice on something else, and I think these will have to change in order to do what I'm thinking about. But I'm thinking it's going to be a kind of an exposed spine sort of thing, with some decorative binding on it. So I'm going to maybe do this one. I still have to think on it, but that's what I've been working on off camera. So today, though, I wanted to go ahead and turn the camera on and show you where I am on this. I did do a flip through in the last video of this. I haven't done anything else inside. I'll do that later on. But I did start working on the spine cover. So I kind of wanted to show you what I ended up doing. And I went through in the previous video my plan, but I've now stitched a lot of things together. So I had kind of laid it out, my idea roughly, and so I've attached some things now. I've gone ahead and did a little couching. These two pieces and this was some lace that I had used on something else, and probably in one of these videos that I don't even remember, but it's on something I used recently because I had torn the edge off of a piece of lace. And let me see if I can find a piece and show you, because this is why I will save. Sometimes they just kind of roam around on my desk for a while, but I like that because it makes me try to use it. So if you see this little edge, I had cut this part off to use, just this part of my trim. And so I had all these scrap of just that little straight part left. So that's what those are. I just couched them on. So you can see that there. So that's what that is. And then I want to do today's video on some Suffolk puffs. I had mentioned putting those on. And so I wanted to show you, in case you've never made those, they're kind of like yo-yos. I want to show you how I did those in some variation, and then some other things that I might add, just to give you some ideas if you're going to do something like this that's just really random with a bunch of vintage things. But I like how this is going to look on this Ontario reader. So, it's going to just kind of be a random looking thing in the end. So that's what I'm working on. Okay, so the Suffolk puff. To make these, I've got some little things rolling around here on my mat. I've made a couple of different variations just so you can see what you can do. Let me maybe get in here a little bit closer. So you can do them where you keep your center in the center and have it tight. You can do them, this one's a little smaller, but I intentionally made my center off center. So just to give it a little bit different look. And then you can also not do it tight so that it's a little open, and then you can actually I put a different fabric in the center, just tucked a little piece in there. So even though these don't contrast a lot because of the type of look I'm going for, this could be something very contrasting. Maybe you have your outside is a floral pattern and then you use a solid, or vice versa. Something like that, where you really notice more that little center piece of fabric is a piece that's tucked inside of your little puff. So I'm gonna make one so that you can see what I'm talking about. But I'm just trying to do kind of a variety of sizes of these and have them made up ahead, so that, I have them for projects. And that's just something you can sit and, when you're watching TV at night or something, just stitch up a bunch of these and just have a little stash of them. So that's what I'm kind of working out. So I've got a piece of my rusted fabric, and you just need to make a circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can just, draw one. You can find different things that are a circle, and this circle made this size puff, and then just the bottom of a spool, it made this little small one. So just grab anything that can, you know, that you might have that is circular, or again, like I said, make your own. And then I'm just going to set it here. And then I have one of these friction pens from Pilot. And if you haven't used one of these are a great tool if you're doing stitching. It's heat will make it disappear. So it's like a ballpoint pen, and you just make your line. But then if you have an iron handy afterwards, most of the time you're either cutting that off or stitching over it, so it doesn't matter. But then you would just take your hot iron when you're finished, and it will get rid of that circle. So it's a handy pen to have. So I'm just going to make this circle and then cut that out. And again, if you cut it out on the inside of that line, then you won't see that. The way we make these anyway, it would be hidden even if you did. Even if you have some of your pen there. So I'm just going to cut that out. And then on mine, I kind of leave my tattered edge showing. I think they're just, for me, faster to make that way. And I don't mind having that little fluff in the center. Oftentimes it's covered up by your stitching, or sometimes I like to show it. I want it to kind of just be a fluffy part of my design. Okay, and then just a needle and thread. And then just you kind of see if there's a side that you want exposed more than the other, if there's a right side or wrong side to your fabric. And this one, it really doesn't matter too much what color I want to show. Okay, so I'm going to start on what is going to be my inside. And then you just do a really fast running stitch around the edge. Now, the other way that you could do this, if you don't want to see your edge, you could fold this over and kind of make a little hem for it. And then you wouldn't have that kind of rough edge. So you would just kind of fold it, roll it as you go, and then do your stitch. So I want my tattered edge to show. Again, because most of the time I stitch over and cover it up anyway, but if I don't, then it just has that kind of vintagey kind of look. Just kind of the worn, uneven thing that I kind of like. Okay, now I'm back at the beginning. Okay, and actually, oops, I want it this way. So it just looks like a little bonnet, little shower cap. Okay, and then you can kind of, like I said, you can either pull it tight in the center, you can pull it tight off to the side, one edge, so you have a smaller side, or you can open it up a little bit and put another piece in there. So to do that, I would, let's see this one, kind of open it up, and then you want something contrasting. This maybe isn't enough. Let's see if I can find something that it would show up better. It can even be something different, you know, textural like this. Maybe I want to just put this inside. So I'm going to just wad up some of that, tuck it inside here, and then pull my bonnet closed, and then just kind of adjust how open I want that to be. So if you're just doing it tightly closed, then you would, I've got to put my needle back on here, but you would you would just go through to the center. Let me get my needle back. Okay, if I was doing this tight, I would pull it tight and then go through to the back here. But because I want to leave this open a little bit so that you can see my center, I'm going to just kind of take a little bit of a stitch right through to the back. And then you could either finish it off there, but I like to kind of like go over here where it's maybe open more. Try to maybe even out my little pleats and then maybe come up here. And just take another little stitch there. And just kind of tack those down where I want them. You don't have to worry about that so much now. You're going to go back and stitch these on so you can kind of fine tune it there. But if I have enough thread on here, it's just kind of easy to do this and kind of get it where I want it now. So just kind of adjust those little pleats where I think they look good. So maybe one over here. So that's good enough. I'm going to actually stitch, do stitching on this, but then I would just flip it over and kind of tie my knot back here somewhere. You see, I'm running out of thread. Okay, well, we're going to hope that stays. Once I stitch it on, it won't go anywhere. Okay, so now I have my little puff. And then I would just, I'm going to just kind of arrange these however I think they look nice, maybe up and down my spine. Get out of here a little bit. Kind of just decide what I like and do more, stitching in between, kind of like I had done on this. This was my inspiration. This is just a piece I've been working on. And it's just, you just do different little things, different little stitches on your puffs, some kind of cantha stitch and just kind of different simple things, little knots and different things. So I'm going to be doing that on here. And then the next step, normally I would be maybe thinking about other little things that I might want to add to this. In slow stitching, you'll see oftentimes people will use things like little beads or sequins and, pearls and that kind of thing, just to kind of add the final details. For this one, I just kind of want to stay in this vintage grungy thing. And so I started thinking, what do I have? I've now taken all my jewelry making things out of the studio somewhere else. And so I kind of didn't have any of that to go to, which was kind of a bummer. So I thought I'm going to dig around in my rusty things. And so first thing I went to look for, because I was thinking if I had some jump rings, some closed jump rings, that would be really fun to just, since I'm doing all these circular things, is to add some of those. I didn't have any, but these are like, some of the eyelets have a backing, like a washer. And so I grabbed some of those because those could be added and look kind of cool, and stitch those on. So that was one possibility. And then I have these light bulb kind of bulb pins, and I thought that might be kind of fun to incorporate, somewhere around here, or even just make sure I leave a spot. Maybe I want to do a dangle from the top of my, have it kind of pinned on here or something. I don't know that I'll do that or not, but that's another thing that you can do. You can even have this and then put a charm on it first, and then stitch maybe around the top, stitch it down to it, and you have something hanging on that's partly stitched on and something dangling. I had a piece of rusty screen that I could maybe add a couple of patches of that here or there. And then I thought of something else that I had. I went digging around through my larger rusty parts that I used to rust fabric, and I found this. This I would have wanted to think about it ahead of time because it would have been fun as a book plate to stitch that on. but this is too large, and I've already attached some of these things. But then I thought, oh, I have a drawer of these kind of things too, which are similar. This actually goes this way, but I've put them on books this way before. Or even, you know, corners, you know, some other things that you might have that you can use. So you want to find those things maybe before you start stitching because they're larger. But that was a possibility. And then I grabbed, you know, this was where I keep my little rusted things to see if I had any kind of washers or anything, paper clips. I thought I have these, and I thought this might be fun. I did this in my Bodhi journal where I used this on the, as part of my, where I put my tie on, and I thought that might go somewhere in my journal. Or taking it apart, take these off and use just this flat part. So that's a possibility. And then what else did I have? Oh, and then I thought of this, the jewelry stuff that I don't have here, but I thought I have this nest. This is whenever I would be making jewelry or anything, I would have little scraps. And I started one day weaving this nest. And I thought, well, maybe there's some pieces large enough that I can, you know, kind of pull them out. They're not stuck in there really well. And so I found a couple of pieces. This is a piece of guitar string left over, and that would actually look really good on here. So I might, you know, find a way to make that part of it. And then I could make some jump rings out of this bronze wire that's kind of already getting aged. So that might work. I do have some tools here I can do that with. So that will be my next step, is to add some kind of rusty pieces, metal pieces, along with these puffs, and kind of just give that a little bit more interest. And then it will be ready to go onto my journal. So that is where I'm at. That's it for today. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and I will see you next time. So have a great rest of your day, and I go make something. Bye.